Okay. Welcome to the kickoff of the Edge SIG for OpenShift Commons. Here with our host, Dwayne Branch. If you want to introduce yourself and hand it over to you.
All right. Good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to serve and to talk about Edge and Edge technology. And so, what we want to do is just give a little orientation to the Edge Special Interest Group and start it off and begin to talk about things that are pertinent towards people, towards the skill development of persons. So this is our very first meeting, so let's go ahead and get started. On the agenda, um, and I think, David, you sent a much more eloquent mission, and we'll work to try to add that into this and keep building so that we can square it away so that we have the community interest served. Um, we want to build this special interest group and to foster it so that the other interest groups we can as advocates for open source we can get stronger together. And of course we'll touch some on Red Hat Edge Device and Microchip, the UP community. Today we're going to focus a little bit on the Edge Onion, but I first wanted to do just a little meet and greet and make sure we can just get a chance to get to know each other. And so we're going to go through the people who we have on the call, your name, your Edge experience, your target Edge growth goals, and then we'll in our discussion, hope to talk some about Edge foundations. What are some of the things that we need to do to be proficient in the Edge as it's rapidly emerging and as it's rapidly moving forth? And then we want to talk about how we can organize such that we're growing our presence on GitHub for our community and planning out potential events and efforts for the coming year. So I'll start off with the meet and greet. My name is Benjamin Dwayne Branch. I go by Benjamin. I have a few years of experience in telecom. One of the projects that I worked on was something called Internet 2. It was put in the backbone engineer for Internet 2. That was kind of like it went all across the United States, and we put in the big $2 million Juniper routers. At that time, in networking, MPLS was the standard, and there was no SD-WAN. So that's why I used to stay up all night looking at MPLS. And then my background is also I started at Lockheed Martin in networking, and then I also did some things at IBM, low end Ethernet, until Cisco bought up my switch, and that switch just retired after 20 years after they Cisco-rized it. But I've also been an admin at the Cisco Next Generation Lab with all of the telcos in there. So I put together that lab, and so I'm very excited about the Edge. My company, we're trying to do things on the Edge. Waiting for the spec on NB-IoT to come out, a far edge spec. And I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. And my target growth areas are I want to focus on the SNO installs, DU compliance, and just to build a skill set so that we can be an aid to the community for multi-cloud installation, Kubernetes patterns, all good foundational stuff that we need to make sure that we are proficient on the edge, from containers to clusters to whatever automation or scupper or podman, whatever we need to be so that we can have the most robust use cases. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. Being the other Ben here. So I'm Ben Cohen. If you're going by Benjamin, I'll go by Ben. I always just go by Ben unless I'm in trouble or something. So I've been at Red Hat for just under 5 years, with a focus on. So I've specifically focused on OpenShift and MicroShift, and part of that is Device Edge, of course. Before that, I was at Dell EMC doing hyperconverged compute, and before that, I was at AT&T. So I've always been doing something that was either decentralized or smaller, and now that's what we call Edge. As far as growth goals, for me, I really stand to learn a lot, just from hearing how customers, community members, how everybody wants to do it. Everybody has a different word for Edge, or a different meaning to them. And I just want to learn more about those so we can help make the best products we can. That's it for me.
Yes, David.
I'll take a stab at it. My name's David Everly. I am the Linux System Administrator here at the Kansas Turnpike Authority here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm not a Red Hatter. I'm an actual consumer, end user person type thing. Before I came here, I've worked in a myriad of different locations, different things, primarily federal government work. Just got into the last 5 years or so, we've been into the emergency management, public safety, incident management group. Excuse me. I want to, my growth, my thing is from the Edge standpoint is I'm actually want to use Edge type devices in the field. So when there is a major disaster, a major incident that comes up, whether it be hurricane, firefighting, etc., we have the capabilities, technology, and everything on board or in the location so that we're not having to utilize cloud-based computing, because most times when we go to an incident, there is no infrastructure, so we have to basically truck it in or build it ourselves. So that's kind of what I'm looking for as far as the edge computing, etc. Other than that, that's all I've got. Thank you.
I can go quick. I know you probably are sick of me talking since I was on this last one last week for the validated pattern SIG. But my name's Anthony Herr. I'm a technology strategist in our emerging tech, or our CTO's organization. I have been here at Red Hat. I am a Red Hat employee for 6.5 years now. And when we started out digging into Edge, I helped lead our initiative leadership team that started to dig into this whole Edge market. So my boss and myself formed the ILT, and about a year ago, we branched off into its own business unit. So I have history on the Edge side, but my main goal here is to just engage with David and Benjamin to try to make sure that I understand what's going on. I don't have necessarily an Edge focus now, but it seems like a lot of the validated patterns that we're working on are Edge-based. So it is always good to hear what's going on in the community and with our customers and with our partners. So I really appreciate the open and honest dialogue that we've fostered in this series. And that's all thanks to Karina. So I will toss it over to her as the last person to talk.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm Karina Angel. I'm sure you've all heard from me as well, and I lead OpenShift Commons, and I'm also on the OpenShift product management team. So definitely interested in all the Edge topics, as well as validated patterns and all the other wonderful discussions we've been having. So, and thank you, Benjamin. I guess I keep calling you by different names, but Benjamin, thank you for running this. So I'll hand it back to you.
Okay. Once again, it's a great pleasure to have everyone here, and I look forward to us going forward. The next thing I have up here is for the group is just a little thing on Edge foundations, and what I mean by that is sometimes the technology is moving so fast, you always want to look at any of the foundational things like containers, security, um, just um, just keeping up with OpenShift. 4.14, and making sure we're well grounded for DevOps is a very fast moving thing, and it takes sometimes an effort to keep up. So um, I think I'm going to try to work on some metrics to make sure we're, I guess, all on the same page on all of the updates, such that we have an idea of what works, what not, what doesn't work, for the most part. I mean, there's always a workaround, but that's always going to be something to work on. And then for our committee for GitHub and SIG planning, that's something that we can be thinking about over the holidays, and depending on what we can put down as good foundations for training, such that we can all grow together, such that we can be more customer facing, and to also maybe look at some of the use cases that we're looking at, whether it's emergency, agriculture, communications, or support. We can perhaps look at some use cases, and look at some type of installs or things to where we can build a confidence on the edge, and keep things going. And another way to do that is, sometimes we might look at doing a paper or doing a presentation, looking down the road, and that could be a good thing that we could try to look at. So those are some things that I want to encourage everyone to, um, let's think about, hey, how can we be customer facing? How can we get some use cases that could maybe gain some traction and grow our community, and move forward in a proficient manner. Um, the next thing I have up to date for potential
Hey,
short-term
Benjamin,
goals. Oh, are there any questions or anything about the foundations or anything that I said?
can you, is there a way, shape, form you can expand your presentation, or maybe is that a Karina thing? Because it's really small on our end.
Um, oh, you mean like that?
Or the window itself. Oh, much better,
Uh,
much better, much better.
okay. Yes. So that's cool. All right. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. So today is December the 5th, our first meeting. Wanted to get everybody's schedule. You know, I guess the looks like the 12th and then the 19th, and I assume the 26th. Everyone's gonna want to be out, and then we'll be back on what is that, the 2nd of January, and to have everyone on the same page on that, but begin to maybe think about, hey, what are some of the, I don't want to say homework, but what are some things that could be some good foundational things. And what I mean by that, if we look at the edge, and if we can put our head around some of the things that may be the core. What I consider the core is like a single no, S&O, as the major core. And is everyone familiar with the S&O, a single node cluster?
You're getting a bunch of thumbs up. Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's what I perceive, and so maybe an effort such as an install there, and maybe an install there, and or any other thing to help us to move forward. Um, and it could be, um, if I go to the next slide, things that would be useful projects, on hands learning, terminology, because the concept of the edge does change depending on on who's defining it, and for us to maybe pull out some simple use cases to start to build upon. And then, as I was saying, on the edge, containers on rail, security pod, man, the concept of a DU, a distribution unit. Does everyone understand what I mean when I say DU compliant, or what that means? Let me see. I can't see the thumbs up in this presentation mode on here, but are there any
No,
questions about?
go ahead and do the 3DU thing.
Say it again.
I'll say, yeah, you may, go from a DU standpoint, just kind of go through what you're thinking on
Okay.
the DU
So
side.
what I'm thinking is, as I put down here, the cloudification of telco infrastructure. Um, I don't know if you saw the news today. I think Nordica is upset because AT&T is going to spend $14 billion with Ericsson on the ORAN, and that means that's I would assume that's the type of the install they're going to be doing. And so ORAN, Open Radio Access Networks. Back in the day, it was just RAN, and it was Radio Access Networks, and it was primarily hardware. And now those things are being virtualized, and the shell that's being virtualized is a SNO. And so, so that's why I was thinking it was a good thing for us to look at a standard SNO, and then if we have that down, then let's look at a DU compliant, and then maybe the next thing on that is maybe 3 clusters, because we get the 3 clusters, get a multi-cloud going. Especially if we have that type of environment, then things like validated patterns could come up, and we could learn some of that. But one of the things, if we're not familiar with the DU compliant config, we may need to spend some time, looking at the ORAN spec, maybe as a stage 2 thing, because hey, we have a customer, AT&T, that's going to spend $14 billion, and I think that could be a significant edge customer, unless there's another way we can do it. But I think that's a lot of potential work for us to do. And then there's a variation of the SNO that where you can be a standalone, and you have a small cell implementation of that, and that could be another. The thing that's going on the ORAN is that they're before the ORAN spec got put out there. There was a lot of hardware, radio access hardware, customers already out there. They've already deployed. But the thing is, if the cost of the implementation comes down significantly, they could be forced to pull out and virtualize like everyone else. And so that's why it's so important that we could try to put together something that's cost effective. And that's the whole promise of ORAN in and of itself. And so that's where I was saying, hey, that could be a very important long-term goal. And the reason why you hear me talking about that, because when I listen to in the direction that Red Hat is going, that's where I believe they're going, and I think they will let me know very quickly if that's not the case. And so so the next thing we come to is actually what we're trying to talk about, which is the edge onion. That means, if you like the onions, there's a lot of layers to the onions. And so you see the data core, and you see think of that as like the central part of the onion, the provider enterprise core, and then it's going out to the provider edge, and then to the end user premise edge. And you see all these different things out here, different layers of going out to the edge. And has anyone not seen this before? Is this new to anyone?
Well, I'm from Red Hat, and we've seen it at Red Hat, but I think this is a good representation of what the edge onion is. But I forget what we call it internally. Do you remember, Ben?
Yeah, we still call it that. And in fact, I have a slightly like an updated, simplified one.
Okay.
It'll look almost the same, but if you want, I'm happy to share my screen and just put.
Yes,
put
yes,
that
yes.
up
Let me stop sharing for a second. And oh yeah, stop sharing. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
So as you can see, very, very similar. The biggest change is that it's got less words in it, right? So, as you mentioned there, you've got your enterprise core. So this could be your core data center, it could be your public cloud. It's some really big computer somewhere else that's kind of far away. As you get closer to where your work is being done, and over here is where work is being done. The near edge is going to be like your regional data centers. So instead of saying, if we said the middle part is like North America, right? Is the continent that you're on, near edge would be maybe the city or maybe the region, the state that you're in. It's some sort of smaller data center that's closer. And then as we get even closer to where the work's being done, the far edge is where you've got things like you might have a small 3-node cluster if you need high availability, or single node, or even microshift. And then, so do you want me to pause or keep going? I'm happy to do either.
No, that's good. That is great. Any questions, anyone?
Love it. Keep going. Thanks.
Cool.
I want,
Yeah.
more of a clarification, Ben.
Yeah.
When you're talking about edge, enterprise, and far edge, how would that? I mean, is that I guess how do I ask the question? Go on. Sorry, I'll see if I can find a better way to ask the question. My bad.
No worries. Yeah. Interrupt if you think of it, but really, it's just saying that this is a spectrum. You're going from really big centralized to really small and very decentralized. And then this little line here, the line with the hat, this is basically saying that at Red Hat, we make all of this, we connect all of this. So you can have your big cloud, you name the public cloud provider, right? You can have OpenShift there. You could be running OpenShift even in a smaller, like a private data center, a private cloud in a regional place. And then that same tool, the same OpenShift, extends out to the far edge. So you could have a tiny little single node or a smaller or a slightly larger 3-node cluster. So what we don't do, you're not going to find a Red Hat branded camera or a thermometer. The things that it connects to and the things that aggregate it back, totally. But the actual device, the robotic arm, the sensor itself, comes from an open ecosystem. The arrows at the bottom, basically the top one, just saying it stretches from the core to the edge. The middle one is these are kind of a general idea where it's saying the data that moves from left to right, in this case, that moves from the outside in, is going to be the actual, like the sensor data, the events that got kicked off. This is the IoT information that's flowing back in from the edge, and then going back out. This is where you might be issuing new commands, or you might push out a new updated ML model, or configuration changes, updates, things like that. So it's just saying you've got some data that comes in, you've got some data that goes out. And I can kind of pause here, but yeah, I've spent a lot of time on this slide, so I can talk about it all day.
Good. I do have. I think I have a.
Yeah.
I figured my question, Ben. Sorry, my bad.
No.
So let's say you have a device at the far edge where you, like microshift, so to speak. Yeah. And if you have how do you, if you don't have a near edge, if you go about just for microshift or a 3-node cluster on the far edge, how does that pull back into the enterprise, or does it have to go to the near edge, then go to the enterprise from that standpoint, or is it mix and match?
Yeah, it's mix and match. So every edge environment, or really every environment, is going to be completely different. We don't expect everybody to have all the steps. Kind of the beauty of Kubernetes is that no matter which of these you use, it's still the same tools and processes that you're probably already familiar with, maybe you're doing that in a central cloud, you actually already know how to do the stuff at the edge. As you've mentioned in chat, there are definitely considerations. So, if you're on a truck, you may not have unlimited power, unlimited space. You may not have cooling. And so you might have to, find some lower power hardware, for example, that maybe doesn't get as hot or isn't quite as big. Maybe it needs to be sealed so you don't get dust in there if it's outside. So there are definitely challenges that you have that you don't face in the core data center. But once you kind of have an idea of what you need, the tools to actually accomplish that are fairly uniform.
What I was getting at is, Ben or Benjamin, I appreciate the explanation, but I was thinking, like you said, that if I'm running in a very small size system, do I need, and I have to reach back to the enterprise to get whatever? Will OpenShift and or MicroShift talk to the enterprise, or do we have to have some type of intermedium on the near edge standpoint to talk to the enterprise?
Yes, no, no, you shouldn't need every single one of these steps. So if you don't need that, that's okay. It's just, this is more of, I don't know. It's almost like a map of where things could be, but you don't have to necessarily drive through every town to get there.
Okay, that's why I was kind of asking the question, because when I looked at the slide, it's like, well, I have to have this. Do I have to have that? Do I have to have this? And that type of thing. And it may be, something that's, not necessarily, I don't say redrawn is not the right word, but kind of a better explanation to some degree. Because from a end user standpoint, I look at this and I'm like, okay, I need to, am I going to, do I need all the different layers of the onions, as Benjamin was saying, to go into the core of the enterprise?
Yeah, no. If we look at the left side, you don't have to have a single node go to a 3 node. It's just saying that as you go from left to right, the devices themselves, they'll get bigger. There may be more of them. They may be in different places further away, but you don't have to have all of them by any means. And that's kind of why this one helped. This one kind of helps simplify, because we just took out a bunch of words. Not that the other one's wrong. We just cut out some words and put in some bigger fonts and some arrows.
Ben, let's say for a customer, a federal customer, do you perceive another row at the bottom for zero trust? Do you see zero trust as being something on the edge or something we shouldn't worry about? Or
I don't know if it will be separate. I don't know if it would necessarily be separate. Again, don't take this graph too literally. So that may possibly be something that could be out, further, in the far edge. Again, this is more symbolic than anything else. It's definitely not an architecture. Okay. That's a good question. I don't know. Anthony, do you have any thoughts on that?
When you think through the edge configuration here, this is just showing you your OpenShift capabilities and where they lie. It's not really drawing out your network connectivity. Do you need it at certain levels of TCP? Are you going to connect data? You say you're in a factory and need to have all the aggregated data from every machine that has the same temperature for months on end, but you're collecting that data, but you're not going to send every single one of those checks over the wire. You're going to want to do some aggregation to be able to process that data. And if the data is the same, why would you send it? So each of those levels has different security requirements, has different connectivity, latency, bandwidth. It really depends on your config. But when you look at the far edge, we're not expecting a large footprint. You're not going to have a data center's worth of equipment there. For David's perspective, it may be a toll booth that has several lanes there, but each lane is just collecting a certain amount of data of what's collected. It's not the data center that has several servers in each person's bay. There may be something around the corner that has a server that's going to collect that data and send it off. So you'll need that zero trust or authority baked into your layout. And that has to be considered for each of these sections. And the near edge, difference between the near edge and the far edge, it could be looked at from the provider perspective that you'll be relying on the telco folks, or it could be a central data center or a regional office that's closer to your data center. It's up to you on what those are, and you can skip any layer you want. You could have just that far edge small device and the central data center if that's all you have.
That was really good. Thanks. And that made me think of one other thing too, which is that this doesn't necessarily have to imply distance. A near edge doesn't have to necessarily be closer. It could just be a question of latency. So, the stuff that is on the left, the very smallest ones they're right there. They're right where something is being built, where the people are. It's in the mix. And so it can act very quickly. It doesn't necessarily need an internet connection. It's right there. As you move to the right, you need to have connectivity, or you need to at least account for connectivity that may go up or down, bandwidth, things like that. So again, it may not necessarily be physically far apart. It could be a latency or connection thing too.
Okay. Do we have any more questions? Ben, I think this is awesome. I definitely want to get this and add this, to the notes and everything. I think this is, very helpful for everyone.
Awesome. I will. I'll hand back the presenting to you. Let you take it. Thanks.
So the next thing I had was just the documentation for Microshift. So if persons wanted to go there and start to read up and become familiar on it, and let me see, I don't have that link doesn't actually, it's a link for everyone. Do y'all want to go there? I mean, this will tell you where it is, but this could be some reading that we could do, and then we could, think about use cases. But in short, we know that the edge.
Flip your thing to portrait mode or landscape, please. That's better.
Okay. Yes. The edge is closer to its data sources. High latency could be at the edge. Again, a single node server at the edge could be a K3, as he said, or a standalone. The far edge, I guess we've already seen that. Seen the diagram, so that could be. Those are the things to think about. And here was things that I was suggesting that could be put to the roadmap for us to train. A UPI SNO install, maybe get to a multi-cloud, and then maybe the same for DU compliance, and then maybe we come back and we do it again with the CI/CD tools so that we can build some speed on the edge. The automation. Time, Ansible, any of the CI/CD tools could be, that's a good experience to have, because I think, again, the single source of truth is a very important thing in case something does go wrong. I think that's a very good skill. Are there any comments on this? Any feedback?
I have one. That's maybe towards Ben and Anthony. From the edge standpoint, are we talking a full-blown OpenShift standpoint, or are we talking about just a Microshift standpoint? And if that be the case, can you do a multi-cloud install / DU compliance, or you run CI/CD tools from that? Or, how does that work within the framework / architecture of, Microshift or whatever from the edge? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can take some of that, and then I'll probably defer to Anthony to to help with part of it too. So single node is OpenShift. I guess to answer your question, it's what it is. Where Microshift is based on it. It's designed to be lightweight, smaller. Doesn't include some optional components. Single node OpenShift is the smallest version of OpenShift. By itself, it also has what we call composable options for installation. So there are components that you can choose not to install. Let's say there's something you just don't need taking up CPU resources. There are some optional components you can choose not to have. But yeah, basically when you see single node OpenShift, just think it's just OpenShift. It just happens to be small. Anthony, did I miss anything there?
No, it was perfect. The only thing I would add in addition to that is that CI/CD doesn't require Snow. You could do it on a 3-node OpenShift. You could do it on Microshift because the tools themselves, they have a number of form factors. We could even run CI/CD tools on RHEL depending on your workloads and what you're pushing down. We have a DevSecOps pattern, the validated pattern side, and I don't want to always keep going back to that, but it does have the capability to push from dev to test to prod. And if you're looking to distribute code or AI models, you're going to have to take a look at what you're focused on. Is it SBOMs? Is it analysis, doing things like Guac or Bitbucket or JFrog? There's lots of different tools. So when you look at the edge, you just need to make sure that you're scaling it to the point that can run all of the capabilities you need in those services. That would be my main question.
And the other thing that I was trying to get to with the CI/CD tools is that if you're not sure of what Get is, then that could be a foundation we can go back and explore, because knowing Get is always very useful for your CI/CD. If we need to do that, we can try to come up with something to take care of those foundations. If because those are important things, I think. So everyone's good with Get. I can't see the arrows. I mean, thumbs up. So okay.
I think we're good.
And that's I think pretty much what I have. Are there any questions, any suggestions? Our planning pace. How fast would we like to go? DevOps is moving. I mean, it's moving very, very fast, and we can, moving at the pace of DevOps is probably always the goal. So, but we want to make sure everyone grows and learns at a pace that's good for them. Are there any questions, suggestions, or any advice on our planning pace and on our strategy of growth?
I think Ben had a good suggestion in the chat when he was talking about about different technologies or topologies. I think that would be good from that standpoint. If you're good with that, Ben.
Yeah, very happy. Got another slide, another diagram that I'd be happy to show on another call. We toss around words like Snow and 3-node, and I know what I'm picturing in my head, but if I can share a diagram that we can all kind of picture the same thing.
Or maybe even, running from, the difference between what Snow is versus what Microshift is, or something of that nature.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that we can kind of get an idea of a baseline pattern of what, not the pattern standpoint, but understand all the technologies, underlying technologies, and work our way up from there.
Yeah, yep, definitely. I did in the chat, I did post 3 blogs. They are very long, but they have some of that in there. If I cover this on the next call, I'll do it with a picture and just talk through it for 5 or 10 minutes or something.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe some glossary development, some terminology, some diagrams to help give everyone a good foundation. That sounds about like what we're saying.
Correct.
Okay, so I'll put that in for the next meeting. we'll this will be a good foundations of glossary terms, diagrams to get us going, and and I guess we'll see where we go from there. Does that sound fair?
I think that's good.
Works for me.
It looks for. However, we have one person who joined later, Mr. Olvera, Mr. Arthur.
Yes, just realized the meeting later. So nice to meet you all. In fact, I'm from Red Hat as well. I'm a partner 10. I'm working with Edge deployments. So most of the stuff that you are showing, I'm pretty much familiar as well. So, but I'm interested in our Edge portfolio. So in following these threads. So looking forward to collaborate somehow.
Okay. Um, okay. So for our next meeting, we'll go over some more terms, some diagrams, and try to push towards maybe a use case. Maybe thinking about doing maybe a simple install. Does that sound realistic to everyone?
Yes, that sounds
Sure.
great. Thank you.
Okay. And then I think we've heard the word. I'm trying to think about what we've heard. We've heard terms um, far edge, edge, near edge. We've heard the terms validated patterns, SNO, microshift. Are there any that terms that we in any other diagrams? I mean, do we need a list of potential terms, or are we think we have it? Ben, you think you have a good idea of um of potential terms?
Yeah, it's basically just an overview of the different versions and sizes of OpenShift and MicroShift, and so we'll kind of touch on all of those. One thing I noticed too is I'm actually on PTO during the next call, so I might have to present that next year.
Okay, all right. So you won't be able to do that until maybe the second.
Let me take a look at that. That sounds right, though.
Okay.
Tuesday. Yep, sure.
Okay, so Ben, we'll schedule you for the second of June of the 2nd of January, and then I guess I'll try to maybe come up with some type of glossary till then. Maybe we'll go all the things of maybe our homework assignment for next time is, hey, let's read the microshift documentation and maybe try to pull a few terms from there and go over that. Does that sound healthy for everyone? Or
I'm good with that. If Ben's good with that, etc.
Sure.
okay. All right. So for the next meeting, I think we'll spend some time on the microshift documentation and see what terms we can pull out of there and get familiar with that and see how we can use that to set us up for some type of installs or use case or something and then we'll on the 2nd of January. Ben, we'll make sure you're scheduled for your talk. And then the 19th, do we want to meet on the 19th, or is everyone will be feeling jolly, or is anyone else be on PTO on the 19th? Okay, so we are going to meet on the 19th then.
I mean, I can be here. I mean, I know a lot of people watch the recordings, so we can get something down and record it, and whoever joins, if
Okay.
you'd like, we'll have one on the 19th, and then we'll see Ben on the 2nd.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like we have a plan going forward. For the next meeting, the 19th and the 2nd, and we'll continue on. Are there any other questions, comments, or anything else?
I guess I'd like to hear Arthur is there anything that would help with your customers that you work with, or any edge topics?
Not at this right moment. I'm working closely to our Edge BU and yeah, PMs, engineering. I don't have any blocker right now, but eventually, yeah, can bring something to the next meeting or think about it. Some use case that I'm working on it. I'm working. I have worked closely to the EEP of Microshift together with our first customers. Okay, using Microshift, so we're pretty familiar to the documentation and yeah, to this to the implementation process as well. So eventually, it's something that I can contribute as well in this session that we did talk about Microshift.
Okay, that's awesome. Um, do we need to have any talk about home lab setups, or ways we can set up our home labs for use cases or anything, or maybe we'll do that on the 19th. Does that sound like a good thing?
That does sound like a good topic.
Okay. So the 19th could be home labs and Edge home lab discussions. And so that sounds like we have a nice little agenda. Next meeting, Microshift use cases are going through documentation and glossary. And meeting after that, we look at home labs for Edge. And then on the second, we have Ben to give his talk on diagrams and more terminology to get us more into the Edge. And I think that's a good way to go. Are there any other comments or inputs on anything else? Okay.
No, this is great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all so much, and I look forward to the next meeting. And I'm gonna just jot down some notes and put this on our schedule, and we should be ready to go. Is there anything else by anyone? Okay.
Thanks for organizing the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's a
exactly.
good start.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone. Karina, thank you. Anthony, thank you. Everyone, thank you. And let's keep this going. And I look forward to seeing you. I think it's on the 12th. And we'll keep it going. And I'll keep notes to keep everyone abreast, and we'll keep it going. So again, thank you, everyone. And it's almost 9 o'clock here, 9 o'clock p.m. So y'all have a great rest of your day and a great evening as well.
Thank you. And a reminder that the 12th is the validated patterns SIG, and then the 19th is back to the Edge SIG. So, Arthur, did you have
yes,
something?
yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll add everybody to that.
Okay.
Thank you again. See you next time.
All right. See y'all next time. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.